Chapter 12. Trials of Faith, Leadership, Family, and Signs from Above. The pressure on the Prophet, peace be upon him, continued to grow as the leaders of Quraysh, furious with his message, went to Abu Talib, demanding that he restrain his nephew. They threatened to fight them both, unless the Prophet stopped. Abu Talib, torn between his love for his nephew and the weight of his tribe's demands, relayed their message to the Prophet. But the Prophet's response was firm. "By God, even if they placed the sun in my right hand and the moon in my left, I would not abandon this course until it is victorious, or I perish in the attempt." With tears in his eyes, he prepared to leave. But his uncle, moved by the Prophet's unwavering resolve, called him back. "Go, my son," he said, "and say what you will. By God, I will never forsake you." Amidst the growing hostility from the Quraysh, an astonishing event took place that left both believers and non-believers in awe. One night, as the full moon hung brightly in the sky over Mecca, a group of disbelievers, eager for proof, approached the Prophet with a challenge. They asked him to show them a miracle, split the moon in two as a sign of his prophethood. The Prophet, by the will of God, raised his hand, and before their eyes, the moon split into two distinct halves, shining on either side of Mount Hira. Witnesses, both believers and skeptics alike, gazed in amazement as the moon rejoined into one. The Prophet turned to the crowd and said, "Bear witness." For the believers, this miracle was a powerful affirmation of their faith. Some who had been hesitant embraced Islam, their hearts filled with awe at the sight. Yet for the disbelievers, the miracle was dismissed as mere magic. They claimed that the Prophet had bewitched them, unwilling to accept what they had just witnessed. This miraculous event became a moment of wonder and hope for those who sought the truth, while the stubborn hearts of the Quraysh remained hardened. As the Prophet's followers were growing in number, yet many of the new converts were slaves, the young, or those without influence. The Prophet longed to win the support of the powerful leaders of Quraysh, hoping it would help spread the message. Among them was Walid, the respected chief of Makhzum, and one of the wealthiest men of Mecca. But Walid was arrogant. "Why should revelations come to Muhammad and not to me, the chief of Quraysh?" he would boast. His pride blinded him to the truth. Abu Jahl, on the other hand, was consumed by hatred. He saw the rise of Islam as an intolerable challenge to the status of Quraysh, especially his own family. "We have vied with the sons of Abd Manaf in every matter," he said, "and now they claim to have a prophet among them. We will never accept it." Even Utbah viewed the Prophet's message through a lens of tribal rivalry. "Why should I be upset," he retorted to Abu Jahl one day, "if the sons of Abd Manaf have a prophet or a king?" But the Prophet knew their intentions were not sincere. Confronting them both, he said, "You care not for God, nor for his messenger. A calamity shall befall you, Abu Jahl. Little will you laugh, and much will you weep." Despite their arrogance, Quraysh remained unsettled. The Prophet's message had taken root, and many families began to feel the strain as loved ones embraced Islam. Abu Lahab, one of the Prophet's uncles, had been among his most bitter opponents from the very beginning of the mission. His real name was Abd al-Uzza, but he became known as Abu Lahab, meaning the father of flames, for his fiery temper and his vehement opposition to the new message of Islam. His wife, Jamil, shared his hatred for the Prophet and his cause. Together, they actively worked to sabotage the Prophet's mission, often resorting to cruel and vindictive measures. Abu Lahab and his wife Jamil, driven by hatred, forced their sons to repudiate their engagements to the Prophet's daughters. But the Prophet's daughter Ruqayya soon married the noble Uthman ibn Affan, a marriage that brought great joy to the family. Meanwhile, others like Abu Hudayfa defied their fathers to follow the new faith. Family bonds were tested as Islam spread within the hearts of the young and brave. The leaders of Quraysh, powerful and wealthy, clung to their traditions, blind to the fleeting nature of their worldly successes. They took pride in their wealth, status, and lineage. But the Quran warned them, "This lower life is but a diversion and a game. The hereafter, that is life, if only they knew." For the believers, the Quran offered hope and assurance of paradise. "Fear not nor grieve," the verses said, "but hear good tidings of the paradise you are promised." Despite their efforts, the Quraysh's power was beginning to crumble under the weight of the truth. The believers, driven by faith, were growing stronger each day, while the leaders of Quraysh struggled to understand that their worldly status could not compare to the eternal promise of paradise.